We'll be visiting DeBautte Gallery at 434 Julia Street, and we'll be talking with Dennis DeBautte, a most interesting artist. Here he is now. Oh, that's not Dennis. Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Why did you start your own art gallery?
In the process of having my work displayed at other galleries, I was never happy with the 50% fee. I know what goes into a piece of work, the blood, the sweat, and tears. So I decided to start my own gallery and charge much lower fees for the artist. And by serendipity, from working with all of these artists, a co-op has evolved.
How affordable is your work?
I consider my work very affordable. Not only do we not have the high gallery fees associated with other galleries, but my work is very enduring. It is made of materials born of the earth, aluminum, granite, stone. It'll last for generations. What's ironic is time will transform each one of these creations into a classic relic to be passed on to your grandchildren's grandchildren.
This is an interesting piece. What is it called?
Pisa, the leaning clock. Simple but elegant. 2 cylinders separated by a long slanted tube. The bottom cylinder is vertical. The top cylinder is horizontal, which houses the movement and the pendulum. It chimes on the hour and gongs out the hours, and it plays a melody on a quarter hour and half hours.
This is really a unique coffee table. Tell us about it.
While I'm not that old, I've got friends from the 60s who are. This table conjures up images of man's first ventures to the moon with the crossbars, the way they connect. Kind of reminded me of some of the old Apollo flights. So I did this table as a contribution to some of my old friends. Obviously, you don't need 5 legs on this table. I just threw the extra leg in just for a little added dimensionality. The cross members are all on angles because, as I said earlier, I like angles in my work. Each top of each leg has a pod on top that's randomly cut and welded, and I like to leave some raw carbon from the welding machine in the pods, and then I coat it and fingerprint it and sign it.
What inspires you to create, and in what form?
2 designs I really like to create are wine racks and clocks. I once combined a wine rack with a clock. Wine and time have a lot in common. Wine ages and improves as a function of time. I feel I have elevated the wine rack to something more significant than a wooden rack or a series of wrought iron tubes. This is called Avignon. I left a slant on the side, and as you can see, you can display your wine with flair and dignity.
Dennis, you know I'm fascinated with time, but I noticed that most of your clocks, the faces don't have numerals. Why is that?
You'll also notice there's no wood. I've liberated the clock. I like to make clocks with abstract, numberless faces. After all, who needs numbers if the clock gongs out the hours and chimes on the quarter and half hour? I call this clock steel. It's my interpretation of a grandmother clock. It's not as large as a grandfather clock, and there's no weights, only a pendulum. As you can see, the long, sleek legs that connect the numberless face to the base give it an almost lifelike appearance. And the wide aluminum base makes a nice place to put a vase.
I see elements of a grandfather's clock. Tell me, that is a grandfather's clock.
How about a modern grandfather clock that abstractly combines aluminum and blue pearl granite? This monument to timekeeping stands over 6.5 feet tall. Its long, angled aluminum body has an almost lifelike appearance. I've titled this work Coelacanth, named after a species of fish that was thought to be extinct for thousands of years until they found some living specimens off the coast of Africa. It's strikingly modern, yet the blue pearl granite on the base and the face hint at the millenniums of time it took Mother Nature to create this gem-like stone. I've scrolled a border of aluminum around the face and left off some numbers. It has a remote second hand and a removable top that acts as a dust cover. The movement is an ergos movement from Germany. It is an 8-day movement, which means it must be wound every 7 days. A tradition has long been established in Europe to wind the clocks on Sunday night before retiring. There are 9 brass chime tubes, all perfectly tuned. The pendulum and weights are brass. You can select between 3 different melodies: Whittington's, St. Michael's, or Westminster.
Have you been influenced by any artist?
The only artist that really comes to mind that I truly respect would be Picasso, because in his day, he went out on a limb to do what most people at that time didn't consider modern. Nowadays, I don't follow any other artist or look at any other inputs or influence, because I feel like I don't want any influence. I don't want to be influenced by anybody else's design. I want to go off on my own tangent.
Gallerie DeBautte has so many contemporary pieces. Are the artists local?
This is called Classic Relic, and it's done by an Aspen artist. His name is Brant Kingman. You'd be surprised to see the detail in his work. This is also done by Brant Kingman, an Aspen artist. Do you remember the Greek legend about the guy who was trapped on an island with his son? He made a pair of wax wings for him and his boy flew too close to the sun and his wings melted. He perished in the ocean. This is Brant's version of the father who survived. As you can see, his wings are badly melted.
I really like this. Who is the artist?
This is a beautiful rendition of An Angel in the Heavens. It's done by a very talented new artist to join our co-op. Her name's Kate Ferry.
In this case, the pedestal is as interesting as the work it's holding.
I really enjoy doing pedestals. A lot of people buy art and not have a unique place to put it. So this is the best place to put a piece of fine art. This is a stainless steel totem sculpture. It's done by Laura Thorne from Aspen, Colorado. And what's unique about her work is they actually tell a story. This is about the West and how the West was won. There's actually coins from brothels throughout the West. The spring represents how we've gotten away from the Industrial Revolution and gotten away from gears and moved on to wheels and spheres.
Dennis, do you consider your work art or furniture?
One important characteristic of my work is that it is functional. I truly believe in this because it adds a duality to my work. Why not have a kitchen table that is a sculpture, a work of art in itself, or a mirror that reflects more than yourself?
Do you use any mass production techniques in your work?
My work is very individual. I put a lot of time, consideration, and work into each piece. Someone who buys my art is making a statement that I don't run with the herd.
Does the market influence your creative desires, or do you have independence to create what you like?
I've got a very successful contracting firm that has afforded me the time and opportunity to do art the way I like to do it. I'm not driven by any market influences. When I create a piece, it's because I truly want to create it. When I purchased this house 10 years ago, I couldn't find the types of art that I wanted in it. I couldn't find a specific table or a specific chair, so I decided to create my own. And over the years in this process, my friends have come to me and said, you need to open up an art gallery.
How do you add warmth to your work that's made of glass and steel?
It's true, glass and steel are pretty cold elements in and of themselves. but it depends on what you surround them with. I like to surround my table with great architecture, family photos on my walls, and just a good environment.
I find the titles of your work most interesting. What was the catalyst for you naming each one?
As you've probably guessed from the titles of my work, I am very scientific in nature, a rare but I think good quality for an artist. This table is called Pithoragus. No, it's not something you need penicillin for. It's named after a Greek mathematician. Among other things, he discovered that the sum of the legs squared of a 90-degree triangle is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. I made all of the triangles on this table conform to this theorem but one. I always like to have something in each piece a little unexpected. This table has a non-conforming triangle and crooked legs. The base is made of blue pearl granite, more like a gem than a rock. Blue pearl granite is mined just 6 months of the year in Scandinavia.
Denis DeBautte, artist, sculptor, welder. For many, beauty is ephemeral. For DeBaughte's artistry, beauty is forever. Created with materials born of the earth. Aluminum, granite, copper, silicone, marble. DeBautte combines dissimilar materials in an aesthetically pleasing way. Functional art, made to last, an enduring icon of our time, reaching out to the future. Here we see the artist at his studio, pursuing his vision. Denis DeBaughte's grandfather's great-grandfather moved here in 1847 when his revolutionary ideas of democracy got him thrown into prison in Bordeaux, France. He settled along the bayou in what would become Lucy, Louisiana. An educated man, he was a teacher, magazine editor, and renowned for his fiery temper.
I'm proud to have grown up in a city as rich and diverse in culture as New Orleans. I remember walking to school under the dew-soaked trees, gazing down at the wrought iron fences and up at the classic mansions that line Louisiana Avenue. It gave me an incredible sense of the endurance of man's creation to realize that most of this fine architecture was constructed before the Civil War. At the same time, it gave me a sense of the transience of our time here. After school, I would watch my grandfather and mentor, a welder by trade, as he used to cut a car in half with his torch. I loved to watch as the molten metal dropped to the ground and splattered. I love metal sculpting, but on my terms. I sculpt for my studio outside of New Orleans. The slow flow of the water down the bayou and the moss-draped cypress trees put me at one with nature, more or less in touch with my heritage. It helps ease the long hours of meticulous work. Yes, it takes a lot of work and time to sculpt a piece. However, the time it takes is dwarfed almost to insignificance when compared to the eternity that a piece will last. This concept gives me great pleasure. The enduring permanence of my art means that my work will still be here long after I am gone. What is avant-garde today will one day be a classic, a relic, to be passed on to your grandchildren's children. I try to stay ahead of my time with my designs so that in the future they will still be thought of as modern. The hours are long and hard, and the weather is hot. As the day creeps on, seconds turn to minutes, and minutes to hours. Each handmade piece starts to take on its own shape as the rhythm of the day progresses. I love to work with the elements, especially aluminum. I slowly shape, refine, and define each piece until, in my mind's eye, I envision what no one has seen before, the future. I pull inspiration from nature around me, the moss blowing in the wind, the sunset as it touches the water. As I work under the grape terrace, I wonder how many glasses of wine will be sipped from this table that I am now creating. A few final welds to grind, a touch of the sander, and a final inspection. Then I sign each piece, DeBautte. I date it, and I number it. Then literally, a final touch, my fingerprint in the wet protective coating. Talk about satisfaction. That's as satisfying as a boat ride in the sunset.
It's a well-known fact that New Orleans introduced coffee to America, that it introduced granulated sugar to the world, that this is the home of jazz, the home of Cajun cooking and Creole cuisine. There are so many things for which New Orleans is famous, but there's something you may not know, something New Orleans introduced to America that changed it deeply, sensually, something you probably use every day and every night of your life. Here, over 150 years ago, a little New Orleans shop introduced perfume to America. Bourbon French, the oldest perfumer in America, is still here, still blending and keeping alive the original fragrances from so long ago. Now creating new and arousing individual perfumes for some of the world's most exciting personalities. The story of the Bourbon French Perfume Company is entwined with New Orleans history. It began in the late 1800s in France, where J.H. Tyndall, a young chemist, along with his two colleagues, created a tonic for topical use to lower fever. Napoleon Bonaparte discovered the tonic, relished its sensual aroma, and began using it as a cologne, using an average of a bottle a day. He named the cologne 4711 after the address of the building in which it was created. He He did so to celebrate his historical decree that address numbers be assigned to each building in Paris. After Napoleon's death, young Tyndall came to New Orleans, bringing the unique 4711 cologne. Here, he met fellow Frenchman and perfumer Auguste Dussault. Together, they marketed Napoleon's favorite cologne as Eau de Cologne. The Bourbon French Perfume Company still carries that identical fragrance with its original label still printed in French. Another original, Couscous, Auguste Dussault's signature fragrance for women, is also still available in its original form. The Bourbon French Perfume Company prospered. For New Orleans, the most romantic and least inhibited city in America, has never denied itself any of life's earthly pleasures. The high-living, sophisticated Creole culture, which came into its golden age during the 19th century, gave the city a reputation for sensuousness, opulence, and appreciation for all the finer things. Abundant food and drink, imported coffees, aromatic tobaccos, exquisite clothing, and wondrous, enticing fragrances. New and exotic fragrances were discovered in Louisiana and through the Central and South American shipping trade. Soon, customers throughout the New World and Europe were placing orders with Bourbon French. The constantly growing business required help, and 17-year-old Marguerite Acker was hired to learn the art of perfumery. She quickly became Tyndall's star pupil. She was blessed with le nez, or the nose, a perfumer's unique talent for correctly identifying the ingredients of perfume by its scent and for blending new scents. Over the next 100 years, Marguerite and her descendants kept the art of perfume alive in New Orleans. Little has changed over those years. Fashions in perfume may change, but methods used in manufacturing fine fragrances remain constant. The best methods are still the simplest, the most direct, the most natural. At Bourbon French Perfume Company, all recipes are made this way, created by hand in small batches and judged at every step. Bourbon French Perfume Company, located in a quaint little shop in the heart of the French Quarter on Jackson Square, has carried on the romance, mystery, and tradition of fine fragrance for over a century and a half. New Orleans' oldest perfumer, Bourbon French specializes in creating individual fragrances, as well as offering their own unique signature perfumes and colognes. The most unusual being Napoleon Bonaparte's cologne, 4711, or Eau de Cologne for men. Couscous, Dussault's original signature fragrance for women, and Voodoo Love Cologne. This exclusive fragrance recreates the mysterious love perfume used by New Orleans women during the early 19th century to gain the affection of a particular lover. Legend has it, Marie Laveau gave this special potion only to her most favored clients, for Voodoo Love perfume was said to possess powers that never failed. The Voodoo bottle instructs the wearer to place 1 drop of Voodoo Love perfume behind the right earlobe, then draw a cross over your heart with the scent. The object of your affection will be powerless to resist you. The Bourbon French Perfume Company on Jackson Square. A beautiful, sensual, uniquely New Orleans affair. Or experience the authentic, fragrant magic of bygone days.